Bronwen Maddox, what an evening to be discussing this. After all, you get a situation in which Trump's administration says, forget us coming on down to protect your ships, do it yourself. And Jeremy Hunt going off to the Europeans and saying, give us a hand. Is that the way we're going to be?
We're going to be oscillating between them, I think, looking for friends where we can. There's no question but that was a big rebuff from the US administration, which has been begging Britain in a way to come its way on the Iran question, be more aggressive, break up the deal, the nuclear deal that Britain has been trying to uphold. And yet when we get into trouble with it, saying, no, you're really on your own.
Robert Toombs, what do you make of it? I mean, after all, we were going to be turning to America as an even closer ally than she's ever been.
Well, in the immediate future, I expect we shall. But I think it's made us realise that we have to look after ourselves rather more than we have in recent years. We've run down the Navy, obviously, and if we are a great seafaring nation still, we actually have to spend a bit more money on ships. I think that's pretty clear. Whether we shall be isolated seems to me to be very unlikely. We shall be, as we always have been, a country that looks for allies.
Well, now, we've had the present Chancellor of the Exchequer warning that it could be £90 billion a year minimum that this thing will cost us, Brexit. Where's the money going to come to build ships?
Well, I don't believe that figure at all. It's based on the most extraordinarily pessimistic inputs. And I think that the likelihood is that we shall be suffering very little from Brexit if we do the right things.
Is that how you see it, Bronwen Maddox?
I think Brexit will cost us money, certainly if there is a no deal, but I think we would find alliances cheaper than pouring lots of money into the military. Just the question is how we can try and have alliances with both the EU and the US. Now, that's fine in defence terms, but I think in trade terms we're going to find it very hard. We're going to be pulled one way or the other, and that may affect wider security alliance questions as well.
Of course, these are early days in the negotiation of Brexit. I mean, after all, the deal is only the first step in a very long and protracted business of trying to disengage from Europe. Even with no deal, there could be quite a lot of negotiating after that. So how do you see that unfolding, and what effect would anything that got drawn out be on what you're saying?
Well, we have a shared interest in free trade. That seems to me the most obvious thing that we shall end up with. I think we could have done it much more quickly, but that seems to me inevitably what we shall finally get towards. And we do trade freely with the whole world, not only with the EU. Indeed, our trade with the EU is diminishing. So I think it will naturally be a trend towards much more global trade than we've had over the last 20 years.
But that sounds a little bit as if we could have plenty of jam. But when it comes down to it, the bread and butter will be rather expensive.
I don't see why. I mean, we're doing quite well in our trade with the non-EU world. We have a very large trade deficit with the EU, and that will no doubt continue to some extent. But the EU has not been terribly successful economically for Britain because it's not very good at covering the things that we actually sell rather well, which is essentially financial services and things of that kind.
I don't want to keep harping on about what's happened today, but in a sense it's instructive, because we should have expected the Americans to say, yeah, we'll join you, but you take the lead. Well, they haven't said that. They've said, you get on and do it yourself down there in the Gulf.
Yes, while saying an awful lot about the whole world should worry about Iran, and we've been saying this for months, but actually not offered any practical help at all. And that is very striking. I think we really have to take that to heart, but it doesn't mean that we go storming into the Gulf. I think we're really going to have to look for, as Jeremy Hunt has been doing, for some kind of European alliance to try to first get that tanker out and then work out how shipping can keep going through the Straits.
How does America first fit with Brexit?
Well, I think we shouldn't depend on sentiment in our relations with America, and I think we should probably start talking not less about a special relationship. We are bound to be important allies of America, and to some extent we depend on them, as to a smaller extent they depend on us. But the idea that this is based on sentiment rather than hard-headed mutual interest seems to me wrong. We should be thinking much more of what we need to do in the world than simply doing things that we think will please our friends.
So America first is completely compatible with an absolutely equal trading relationship?
Oh no, it won't. Well, equal In what sense? I mean, the Americans will want to make profits from us as we will want to make profits from them. This is not. We're not asking for charity, nor are we offering it. We're asking for an equitable way of mutually making money.
Sounds rather.
I don't think we're going to have an equal trading relationship with the US. I don't think a US trade deal is going to be very quick to achieve. And as Canada and Mexico have found, even when you've got one and are close allies of the US, it can try and rewrite it very much on its own terms. It's going to be done on really pretty bald national interest. I
And
think.
if we factor in a second Trump term, probably
I
that
think we
with
should
knobs on.
factor in a second Trump term, and so yes, that with the extra confidence of his administration that his techniques are working from US's point of view.
Has anything about arriving at this position shocked you?
Yes, the incompetence of the May government, I'm sorry to say, the willingness of a large part of the political establishment to risk wrecking our whole political system for the sake of staying in an EU which is, after all, not working terribly well and not working terribly well for us. Those are things that I
Let
find
me
shocking.
just ask Bronwen last. Anything you too, very briefly?
I think we shouldn't presume that the United Kingdom is going to stay united. That would be my big worry if we end up with a no-deal Brexit. We're going to be
Bronwen
very
Maddox,
fast into that.
Professor Toombs, thank you both very warmly.